only letting me go into uh, portrait mode. I don't understand this. So I thought I'd do something different. I just saw the Joker, just got out of it. It's the first day, so we live in a society. Gamers rise up. Couldn't resist. All right, so I thought I would start with a spoiler-free review and then kind of like make my argument for why this is, I think this is a good film and you should see it, maybe like address some like questions or controversies about the film. And then after like doing the spoiler free thing, then I'll give a spoiler warning and I'll talk about it, maybe spoil some things. If there are any questions in the live chat about it, I'll spoil those, but not until later. So let's start with the spoiler free stuff. Double check to make sure I'm not going to dox myself with anything on my desk. All right. So I've got some notes to help me out. Okay, so I think this movie is really good and you should see it. In fact, I think it's one of those movies where I would say it kind of transcends, the comic book movie, and it's a really artistic, well executed film. It's thought provoking. It's interesting because of like how well it's done overall. I think you should see it even if you're not like a big Joker guy, based on just what a quality film it is. It has a key theme. It kind of stays focused on that theme. Dillard draws. Do give me some spoilers. You will get spoilers. Dillard draws. Let me help out the spoiler scared people first, and then I'll spoil everything. Uh, so number two, Joker's character. Okay, so maybe like the number one thing to address for Joker fans. By the way, everyone go check out John Dillard Gaming the System. I love this guy. He's an artist. He is like kicking butt, trying to make it as a professional comic book artist. He's a dad. Check him out. So for the Joker, maybe the question is, should the Joker have an origin story? And I'm one who I don't think the Joker ever should have a definitive origin story. Like the closest he gets is he was the Red Hood, and then Batman knocked him into a vat of chemicals, and that stained his skin white because he's a Golden Age character, right? And a lot of these Golden Age characters are very simple. They're villains in children's stories. So if you don't think the Joker should have an origin story, well, the problem is this is an origin story for the Joker, and I kind of want to make the argument you should give it a shot. My argument would be one of the things I love about Batman and the Joker is that they get reinterpreted a lot. So, there's the goofy, campy version of Batman and the Joker, and the Clown Prince of Crime. There's Adam West. There's the great Dick Sprang comics from, I think, the Silver Age, actually, when they were censored. If you go back even farther, the Joker was a mass murderer in his very first appearance. There's obviously Heath Ledger's interpretation, Jack Nicholson's interpretation. I have still not seen Suicide Squad because I could just tell that Jared Leto was going to ham it up and was trying to, pretend to be super edgy to tap into the excitement about the Heath Ledger performance. I think you should see the Joker, even if you're not big on him having an origin story, because I think they do give him an origin story, but I think they nail the heart of this character, and they tell a story for today, which is also taps into some really old themes about the character. So go see it, even if you're a cynic. You'll thank me later, or maybe you can yell at me and not give me super chats on the number one Martin Buchanan show. All right, so Joker's character, I like how he gets reinterpreted. Let's talk about the actor's performance. So obviously, like, Heath Ledger has changed them out, and when he took me to see it, his comment was, I don't know about this. I like the Joker better when he was the Clown Prince of Crime, because his reference point was kind of the Adam West TV show. And when he came out, he couldn't believe that performance. He couldn't believe that movie. He still, to this day, always talks about how much he loves Heath Ledger's performance. I was just like a kid when The Dark Knight came out. So obviously, any actor after Heath Ledger has some big boots to fill. And like I said, I think Jared Leto's problem is he wanted to ham it up and be all crazy. Look, I'm damaged, guys. I have crazy bright green lurid hair. So Joaquin Phoenix's character is, I think it's informed by Heath Ledger, but it's not just him copying Heath Ledger. Like, if he had been hamming it up, I think this movie would have been ruined. And I was actually kind of scared going in that this was going to be like 90 dreary minutes of the guy getting beat up and shamed by society, and then he become the Joker. And it is 90 minutes of him getting beaten up and shamed by society, and then he becomes the Joker. But it's actually good. And one of the things that helps that is Joaquin Phoenix does what an actor is supposed to do, and that's become the character and not distract you from, enjoying the movie by hamming it up and showing off what a special actor he is. You just accept that this character is the Joker. You accept that he's a mentally disturbed character based on, Joaquin Phoenix's mannerisms, and his physical performance actually helps establish the theme of the whole movie, where it's trying to tap into both like the terrifying and the comedic and the tragic aspects of this character, and the like what Joaquin Phoenix does with his face, with his laughter. Actually, it's amazing because it's just like physical, like facial expressions and body language, but it actually fits with kind of the thinking ideas of the movie as well, where it's trying to like ask us, what does the Joker mean as a character? Why are we so fascinated by this character? Why like does 4chan kind of idolize and joke about this character? Even the clown world meme is kind of like evidence that this 80-year-old character still has some punch to him, still has some pizzazz to him. Maybe like one real quick thing about the Joker's character I love is that there's all these layers to him. Like number one, he's a scary clown. Like what a great idea. Like who is the first person to think of scary clown as a bad guy? Number two, he kind of like taps into how a lot of humor is kind of perverse, or evil itself is kind of funny. And is there not number three? Maybe number three is kind of like the contrast Joker makes with Batman. And I love that the Dark Knight, like an onion, ha ha ha, layers, ogres have layers. But I like how in the Dark Knight, obviously, there's this contrast between Batman and the Joker, and Batman's worldview triumphs in the Dark Knight because Batman's the hero. But in a movie that centers on the Joker, they still manage to have like the contrast in worldviews between Batman's worldview and the Joker's worldview. But because Batman isn't a part of this movie in a big way, uh, it is a more depressing and sad movie because it's taking us into like the world and the mindset of a character like the Joker. So I'll take a look at this. All right, so I'm going to maybe tell you a couple little interesting things. I did see cops there. There were some off-duty cops guarding it. I actually don't mind that. People were kind of saying, "Really, we're going to have cops there?" Like there was a mass shooter at the Dark Knight, and some of these guys are copycats. I always say, the only thing that beats a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. So I don't mind that. There's obviously like the fake news aspect to this, where the press was constantly drumming up the idea that maybe someone might shoot up a Joker movie theater because they're fake news and they love clicks and they love outrage and they love ad revenue from that. I had absolutely zero fear of that happening while I was at the movie theater. So saw the cops. Let's talk about one of the most important things of any movie going experience: the trailers before the movie. Trailers suck now. Remember when we were kids in the 2000s? Remember the 2000s? But like seriously, remember when they would have like characters from a movie come out and tell you not to, to turn off your phone and not to make noise during the movie? It was almost like they were hoping it would help. Yeah, Dillard, I know. Gee, fake news. Are you okay, fake news? Maybe the fake news identifies with the Joker too much, and they don't want to admit it. But like, you remember when trailers would come out and like the frogs from Meet the Robinsons would come out and tell you to like silence your phone? I miss that stuff. Like they didn't really. They just have like boring screens now. But the seats are great at the new movie theaters. I love capitalism. None of the trailers look interesting except for 1917. Rian Johnson has a murder mystery coming out, and it looks like absolute garbage. Why do you advertise your movie as from the creator of The Last Jedi? That's just sending people away right away. All right, so I don't really care about any of the trailers coming out except for a lot. Like, this is a movie that is really reliant on one actor's performance to hold it together, and so things like the score and the cinematography, like using the camera and lighting smartly to create mood, all of that was really important so we wouldn't get sick of just looking at one actor for the entire time. So it's one of the reasons I think this is a work of art, because the art of filmmaking is being used to kind of serve the themes the movie's talking about. Maybe like one little criticism I have of it is it's not that funny. There are a few gags that kind of rely on the perverseness of a character like the Joker, where people in the audience laughed because we got it, we got the irony of the situation. I personally would have liked if they maybe carefully wrote in a few more gags. Dillard Draws writes, Rian Johnson will subvert your expectations by revealing that no one was murdered and you can't have your money back. He can't subvert my expectations if I don't go see a Rian Johnson movie. Okay, so I would have liked if maybe like Heath Ledger's Joker is pretty funny because they use him in small doses, and every time he comes on screen, he makes a big impact or does something clownish. There are some moments where you laugh as Joaquin's performing at things he does. It's just maybe like about 3 laughs for me for the entire movie. And I kind of feel like I should laugh a bit more at the Joker movie. This is really good. This is a really good horror movie, and I hate horror movies. Most horror movies rely on guts and gore to shock you, and the entire horror of this character is sort of seeing how he is like us, seeing some of ourselves or our own hatred and anger within this character, seeing how 80 years later he's still relevant. What's old is new. I was really impressed by just by seeing like trash around Gotham, where like in the 1960s, 1970s, whenever this movie is set, like trash and crime were a big problem for New York and Chicago. And now we flash forward to today, and there's trash and feces in major cities like Detroit and San Francisco. They're making a really neat argument that our old problems from past generations are coming back to haunt us today. And we're doing something wrong. We live in a society where something we're doing is like helping to create jokers, helping to create lone wolf mass shooters. So obviously, like the big theme of this is someone like the Joker purely responsible for his own evil as an individual. The society isn't to blame for his evil, only he is responsible to blame for his own evil. Or is there a sense in which I hate the idea that society creates criminals, but is there a sense in which society contributes to monsters like the Joker emerging? And that's like the question it poses to you in the audience. And what I love about this movie is it poses that question. It gives you some thoughts on the question, but it really it leaves you to puzzle it out. It doesn't like lecture you too much about that question, but I think it's maybe making a sophisticated argument that there is something we as a society could do to prevent guys like the Joker, and that's not abandon them, that's not abuse them, that's not relegate them to a dark corner and pretend they don't exist, and just hope that they don't hope that they stay in their place and never bother us. Ahoy there, says the metal. We're talking about the Joker. I've already done the spoiler-free review, which is go see it. It's a great film. I'm now talking generally about the plot without trying to spoil too much. I mentioned that like 4chan relevant. Yeah, so like the joke on 4chan is we live in a society, gamers rise up. But what's interesting about this is because it portrays the Joker, I wouldn't say in a sympathetic light, but in an understanding light. It's trying to help you think what would create a monster like the Joker. The impact comes from you understanding that when you leave young men behind, when you leave damaged people behind, when you don't have institutions in place to give a home to people who clearly need help and cannot function in society, you're setting yourself up for these kind of problems. And I loved it. Kind of like the Trump election, the the incel problem. The mainstream media and the news are upset because they think, oh well, incels will love this movie. I think very clearly this is a movie that's talking to non-incels about what are you going to do to stop incels from becoming a problem? What are you going to do to stop misogynists and violence and mass murderers from becoming a problem? Because we have to think about that. And I think maybe the moral theme of this is there's no neutral action. You can't abuse and mock and denigrate someone and just think, oh, well, that'll never come back to bother me. He's just some loser. He's just some stranger. It'll always have some broader effect that you can't see or touch or taste in your own life. Your actions have consequences. I think I'm going to transition into spoiling since I got some requests for spoilers. All right, you ready? Okay. Spoiler, 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 spoiler. Go away if you don't want spoilers. All right. I love hearing your thoughts on this movie. Not worried about spoilers. Just hanging out till Nick Rekida's stream. Really hope the wife and I can see the film soon. All right. Thank you, Boz Comics. All right, you're gonna get your wish because here come the spoilers. They actually float the idea that what if the Joker is Bruce Wayne's older brother? What if the Joker is the son of Thomas Wayne? Whoa! And I couldn't believe it. Now, one of the interesting things throughout this movie is they're kind of careful not to give you like two definitive answers, which I think is smart because even though they're giving the Joker an origin story, they're still preserving some mystery. So he learns from his mother that she's been writing letters to Thomas Wayne, desperately asking him for help for their bastard son. She's claiming that that Arthur, the character's real name is Arthur in this world, is the love child of Thomas Wayne. He confronts Tom. That scene that everyone was talking about, where he seems to be cheering up a kid, that is Bruce Wayne. It's a really impactful scene because it's sort of foreshadowing like the epic conflict between these two characters. But when Arthur confronts Thomas Wayne, Thomas Wayne is emotionally abusive. I'm here for the spoilers. Pirate me. All right, Dillard. All right, so Thomas Wayne punches him in the nose and tells him, I'm not your father." So it kind of leaves open the question. For me, the movie seems to hint that that was just a fantasy. The Joker is mentally disturbed. His mother is mentally disturbed. She's just delusional and making things up. But they at least kind of leave open the possibility that maybe the Joker. I've got real cough squad. I've got a cold. All right, I'm almost over it though. They leave open the possibility that maybe he's the son of Thomas Wayne. Maybe the other interesting thing is Thomas Wayne is a real character in this movie, and I think he's kind of coded to be a right-wing, pull yourself up by your bootstraps Republican politician who wants law and order. And what's clearly communicated is that Thomas Wayne has these grand ideas about how he's going to save the world and use his money and power to save the city, but he's not empathetic to people like Arthur. He doesn't really care about the little people he steps on along the way, which actually kind of adds to the Dark Knight, because throughout the Dark Knight trilogy, there's this question Bruce Wayne is trying to face: is has his father failed? Is he living up to his father's legacy, or is he going to have to destroy his father's legacy in order to save Gotham? And this movie's clearly making the argument that something about Thomas Wayne's worldview or his attitude, his kind of conservative, self-reliant belief in the free market, doesn't prepare the world for a character like the Joker, where he's left behind, where he has no way out, where he's mentally unstable and there's no institutions or things in place there to take care of him and to keep people safe from him. So the Joker coming into existence and Gotham becoming a crime-infested, a hive of scum and villainy, is really more attributable to Thomas Wayne than the Joker in some ways, because Thomas Wayne isn't prepared for the consequences his actions will have. He thinks he can step on people like Arthur because they're just losers, they're weird, they're clowns. There's also this really fun aspect where the Joker kind of accidentally starts a political movement without realizing what he's doing. Because he kind of taps into something in the human psyche. He kills these three guys on the bus who are young, kind of Wall Street, millionaire trust fund kids. And people start cheering this, and they start saying, "Yeah, kill the rich." So this is actually tapping into some Occupy Wall Street stuff, and I'm not an Occupy Wall Street guy, but it's used really artfully, and I think you need it to make the themes work. Now, for a mentally ill person like the Joker, he doesn't care about the politics. All that he's kind of fixated on are his own problems in his own little life, and the fact that he's never happy. He's never been happy. He's been abused. No one will give him a break. All he'd like is maybe a little warmth and a little kindness. Maybe one other little quibble I have with the movie is sometimes it's a bit on the nose. Like, they'll give him a speech where he'll say, "What happens when you cross a loner with mental illness with a society that relegates him and treats him like garbage?" And then he shoots a guy. Where it's really kind of on the nose, making the point that we have to think about characters like the Joker because we have to think about lone wolf shooters and the isolated, lonely, and angry young man, which is probably one reason why the media hates it, is they can tell that this is telling you need to be sympathetic to especially young white men like this who are going down this dark path, because if we don't pay attention to them, if we just cast them to the corner and pretend and hope they go away, well, they may not go. Maybe they'll just shoot themselves, but maybe they'll get a gun and shoot a bunch of other people. It's telling us we need to do something sympathetically to care for these young men before they start murdering a bunch of people. Other maybe spoilers for the mythos. The scene where he interacts with young Bruce Wayne is the whole movie's phenomenal. Like the whole movie is built on the premise of trying to get you in the Joker's mindset and try to understand the world from his perspective, while also kind of like having some aspects of the world not make sense. As you're kind of submerging into his psychosis, you're sometimes unsure what's real or what he's imagining. I like how they did it because, the motif of, oh, we don't know what's real, that's been used a lot. And sometimes it's a little corny or just like, come on, explain to me what's going on. Don't do this like layers of dreams or imagining stuff. But I think in this movie, it's used sparingly and it's used effectively to add to the terror because sometimes you're not sure if he kills someone or whether that's his delusions that he's acting out. Jokin's performance. I love that the actor's name is Joaquin Phoenix. Jokin, but he kind of nails the unsettling aspect of the character where he's not quite all there. There's something just off about him, a little unsettling. While at the same time, there's almost something sort of sweet and actually charming and funny about him. Yet it's all getting left behind. Other spoilers. Alfred shows up. Joker nearly kills him. Robert De Niro got shot, and since he's such a smart aleck, I kind of chuckled at that a bit. Oh, okay. Here's a major spoiler. So, do you remember how Jack Nicholson, his version of the Joker, they made him Joe Chill or something, and they made him the one who was responsible for killing. Are you kidding me? The man pronounced Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin, but I could be wrong. If your pronunciation's correct, that'd be hilarious. Well, I'm headcanoning his name's pronunciation as Joaquin Phoenix for the rest of this review. Anyway, but, oh, great. Where was I? All right. So, actually, this is kind of proof of my point, right? So, the Joker gets reinterpreted a lot, right? And so in the '89 movie, they had the Joker be responsible for killing Thomas and Martha Wayne. Which is like a little weird. Like I've never seen anyone else do that except that movie, but I'm kind of fine with it because I'm fine with reinterpretations. I was fine with Superman killing someone in the Man of Steel, right? And everybody was mad about that. But in this, the expectation I had is, oh, they're going to have him kill Thomas and Martha Wayne. And then he gets knocked out, and explicitly, the Joker does not kill Thomas and Martha Wayne, but the Joker creates the set of circumstances that lead to Thomas and Martha Wayne's death. And I love that the mythos of Batman and the Joker is so open to interpretation. You can keep doing things with it. So like the pearls, right? Batman's mother getting shot and then the thief grabbing the pearls and the pearl necklace falling apart. That's like a really well-established part of his mythos. And in this, a kind of random guy with a Joker mask sees them. He recognizes Thomas Wayne. He's angry at Thomas Wayne because he sees him as the rich. He sees him as the 1%. So he just shoots him to give him what he deserves. And then he shoots the mom. And then he grabs and rips the necklace because it doesn't matter to him. He's not poor. He's not robbing them. He's not taking the necklace to make money because he's desperate. He's just doing it as a petty act of vengeance and rage against these rich people. And you start to sympathize with Bruce because now he's a victim, just as the Joker is a victim of a society in some ways that abuses him. Now Bruce is a victim of a society where Joker is creating anarchy. He's creating chaos, hatred, and death to placate his own rage or to act out his own selfish insanity. That's one of the important things is if they were trying to make the point like, oh, Joker's so sympathetic. I feel so sorry for him. He's such a nice guy. I wouldn't like this movie and I wouldn't find it moral. It does a very good job, I think, of categorizing Joker's behavior is murder. It's evil. It's wrong. But because if we understand this kind of a person, we understand better what to do with it. The first murder scene when he finally breaks down, I kind of like that it starts as self-defense, and then the third guy who's running away and stumbling away, he murders him, shoots him in the back repeatedly as he's running away. So it goes straight from self-defense to a clear-cut case where he hunted him down and murdered him, even though his emotions might have been high from trying to defend himself from attackers in the first place. What's kind of interesting about that is it's using the motif of the gun for the Joker in a way that mirrors the motif of the gun for Batman. Now, I love guns. I love self-defense. But in Batman's world, the gun is what kills his parents. The gun is what represents what he fears and what he wants to kind of prevent from happening to other innocent people. For the Joker, the gun begins as a way for him to defend himself from people who want to kick his ass just because they can. And at first, he seems to be using it legally and morally to defend himself, but because he's an unstable person, because he has no control over his emotions, he quickly starts spiraling and starts using it to kill people. And as he starts killing people, he starts to feel alive. He starts to feel like a big man. He doesn't feel like a tiny little weak man anymore. He has this great line. My entire life I've never been sure if I'm alive. My entire life I've never for 1 minute been happy. And they're very simple lines. They're very straightforward lines. I think it's the combination of just how simple and straightforward they're being in the script, combined with Joaquin like becoming this character that makes it all work. Other spoilers. Let me think. Uh, what are some other? Okay, there's one like question I'm still trying to figure out. Is he really an incel? Because they have some scenes that seem to indicate he's not an incel, but this is maybe one of the parts of it where you're not sure if he's just imagining this and he's just fantasizing about being with the girl, or if he's maybe like genuinely an incel. And one of the things that sets him off is he sees this mom with a young daughter, and he seems to like kids. He seems to like entertaining kids, which is one of the tragedies of for him. So the mom kind of like looks at him and pretends to put a gun to her head and shoot herself, right? Kind of like as a joke. Oh boy, kids, can you believe it? And something about this maybe sets him off. Like he sees something wrong in it or something unusual in it. Like she wants to die. I want to die. I want to sleep with her. I want to kill her. So to me, it seems completely open ended whether he kills this woman or not. And I'm probably gonna have to watch it 2 or 3 times to understand some of the maybe more mysterious aspects of it. Spoiler, 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 spoiler. I can't think of any more major spoilers. Just throughout the entire movie, I'm immersed and engrossed. Uh, yeah, and I think you guys will dig it. So I haven't seen any like live stream questions. Thank you, John Dillard, Gaming the System, for the super chats. I really appreciate it. Nobody says H. Did you want to say hi? We live in a society. Gamers rise up. That's my closing thoughts, gang. Thanks for joining. Go see the movie. Rewind to the first few minutes if you want the spoiler-free review. And I do a good job of saying spoiler, 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 spoiler before I talk about all of the big crazy spoilers in this movie. I think you'll dig it. Don't believe the lying fake news. Don't believe the Rotten Tomato critics who say it's garbage. This is a good film. You're gonna love it. All right, I'm number one Marmaduke fan. I have to figure out how to stop the live stream. How do you do this? Do I just press X? Are you sure you want to stop streaming? Boz Comics says, good talk, Marm. See you next time. Thank you, Boz Comics. I love you guys. Duke Does Cinema says, Dillard Draws. I love you too, Dillard. And I will catch you later.